1. Ugh, that sucked. 3, 2, 1. Ah, I know it doesn't matter. There it is. Hi, everybody. I am Elisa, also known as Elisa Rock Doc, also known as Dr. Elisa Melendez, if you're nasty. I am a content creator, musician, scholar with one of those actual PhD things in comparative sociology studying video games, because they let me do that. And I've also been a part of the game industry or industry adjacent for the better part of, 10 years now. I wish we could be doing this in person this year, but I've been trying to do my best to really feel the spirit of MAG even here at home. Yeah, actually, this is gonna be more of a comment than a question. Oh, hold on. I finally got reception and my phone's dead. Do y'all even do that in this one? For as long as I've been doing stuff and being a part of MAGFest, I've been getting my fair share of questions. But one of the ones that I haven't had a chance to answer until now has been, how in the heck did you manage to get one of your songs in a video game? I don't know, but I'm gonna do my best to take the next section of this hour to try and tell you exactly how the heck that happened. Hopefully you can find something here that can resonate with you, whether it's because you're a musician or a content creator, an educator, maybe you're looking to be a game dev someday, or maybe you're just here because you have an extra hour to burn and hey, I see you. I'm happy you're here. But before I do that, my legal counsel has advised me that I need to provide the following disclaimer. The experiences shared here took place in an alternate reality called the before time, so who the hell knows if any of this is actually going to be useful to you right now. Also, your mileage may vary, and everybody has a different combination of intersectional stats rolled for them, basically, including, but not limited to, gender, race, class, and all of these in conjunction with luck, drive, and opportunity. Again, your mileage may vary. Lastly, I might have a PhD, but I'm not that kind of doctor, and I'm not that kind of doctor either. Let's get it. All right, now without further ado, let's get into it and finally answer that question. How the heck did I get my song in a video game? Let's go. Step number 1, write a song. Sometimes harder than it looks. If you are a creative person, I'm sure you found yourself at some point with an inability to create, a lack of inspiration, etc. But here is some of the stuff that worked for me. And who knows, maybe you could try it next time you feel a little bit blocked. The key ingredients to every Crimson song are twofold. 1, make me really angry. And 2, give me some form of a box to scream into. Sometimes that's a car, sometimes that's a shower. I no longer have a commute. That second one's a little bit more difficult, but usually a Crimson song will come out of some strong emotion that I, because of my musical theater background, will feel compelled to sing out loud and just burst into song. That's actually kind of how that works. Nowadays, I don't necessarily have a commute, and when I sing in the shower, well, let's just say that the walls are pretty thin. So here are some of the tips that have helped me lately in terms of my songwriting. Expanding my vocabulary, and I mean that in both the word sense, but also the melodic sense. Lately, I've been doing the crossword puzzle, and it's actually been really good at helping me, A, learn more words, but B, think about clever turns of phrases that can make for some interesting lyrics later on. Next, I also expanded my musical vocabulary a little bit. Rocksmith has been a great game that I've been playing that has helped me discover all sorts of new songs, but it's even been things like putting on an album that I haven't listened to in a while and listening to it top to bottom while I'm cleaning. And sometimes it's actually really been good at helping me rediscover some songs and some cool things that eventually make it into new Crimson songs. So to that end, I highly recommend opening up your ears and getting some new experiences, whether that is in the form of reading more stuff, doing more stuff, and engaging in more fun activities that nourish your soul, whatever those may be. Once I get a song down on paper, usually I tend to follow a formula, and hey, that's not bad. If a formula works for you and it helps meet your particular metrics of creative success, go ahead. Usually I go with a verse, pre-chorus, chorus, second verse half as long as the first one, pre-chorus, chorus, some sort of a bridge that transitions into a blistering guitar solo, after which I break down the tune, and then we sing the chorus a couple of times because there's nothing like just getting everybody involved. So to review, the ingredients of every Crimson song: 1, make me incredibly unhappy. 2, stick me in a box to scream my feelings out. 3, do a crossword. And 4, as soon as you can, just put on Tragic Kingdom for the 15th time and really tell yourself you're going to discover something new. And sometimes you do. After that, once you get everything down on paper, then I take it to my guitar player / hubby, and he tries to figure out what the heck it is that I'm implying with my voice, because I don't do a Western musical notation thing, but he does. So he knows what it is that I'm trying to sing, and he also knows how to make it sound cooler. And so once I do that, we end up with an acoustic version of a song that goes a little something like this. So we are Crimson. This is someone else's fault. They requested it. We're going to play you one of our own. Our hands are tied, but we wanted more for ourselves. I wanted you, you wanted someone else, always someone else. But that made it okay. That made it okay. Don't look, don't touch, just like a good girl should. Don't ask, don't tell, you really got it good. But things have changed, her schedule's rearranged. She's coming home, she's coming home. Stay if you wanna be there. Who am I to say if you wanna be there? Don't look at me that way, you don't know what you do to me. You don't know what you do to me. My eyes will always drift to center, but my heart belongs to my right.
Gross.
We're throwing caution to the wind with a kiss. Please tell me, are you faking? There's no mistaking who I'm taking to my bed with me tonight. 'Cause I wanna be there with him all the way. Oh, I wanna be there. At least I never stray. You don't know what you do to me. You don't know what you do to me. But still, if you do, don't stop. And this would be about the point in time where he would have a really awesome guitar solo, but he is only one man tonight. But if you do want to hear the whole thing... Oh, okay. Oh, all right, so it's like that. You can check us out, crimsonrocks.bandcamp.com, and see us after the show. However, please don't change, 'cause things won't be the same if you find out who I wrote this song about. I still wanna feel it every time we touch. Oh, I wanna be there. I need it so much. You don't know what you do to me. Step 2. Get 2 masters and a PhD studying gender in video games. I am a huge nerd. Jeopardy was a religion. I do, in fact, have a Trivial Pursuit pie tattooed on my person. So because I was such a huge nerd and one of my actual life goals at the time was to eventually make it onto Jeopardy, I ended up with a BA track in liberal studies where basically I could learn almost everything. It was a degree that was just a bunch of electives smushed together. So I was about 1 credit away from minoring in religion, sociology, and earth sciences, I think, as a result of my taking, as part of one of those electives, an Intro to Women's Studies class. Now, at the time, I was a musician, and I also enjoyed my fair share of video games. I believe it was at that point that I was strongly debating subbing to World of Warcraft. But it was during that course that I realized that I wanted to study a lot of the experiences that I had as a woman trying to be a rock musician in a more academic fashion. So I ended up switching my degree to women's studies, and I got a master's degree from Lesley University where I focused on learning more about the history of women in American popular music. So of course, what is the first thing that anybody's got to do as soon as they get a master's in interdisciplinary studies? That's right. They get a PhD in something that makes more sense on paper. And that is what I eventually did. So I had all of this background having studied women in American popular music, but I was seeing a lot of parallels with my own experiences getting back heavily into playing online multiplayer video games, and you know the rest. And my advisor looked at me, just flat out said, "They make music games, don't they?" Generally, games are more than just the thing that's on the disc. These are things that are made by people. And as a sociologist, I knew that I was going to have to interview some of the people, and I wanted to interview the people behind those games as well as the folks that play them and enjoy them to get a really complete experience. So I would need access to those people somehow. Thanks, Past Elisa. That brings us to step 3, and that is make connections. So I knew that I wanted to get to all of these conventions in order to have access to not only players that play music games, but also the developers that make the things. And I knew that between my graduate stipend and having to buy flights from Miami in order to get there, I had to figure out ways to go there on the cheap. And I found out that media badges were a thing. And it turns out the person that I'd been bugging to write about my band for the local paper for years was also the one who put out a call for writers to cover geek culture in Miami. So, as someone who fancied herself a writer but also genuinely had a desire to portray geek culture in Miami in a positive light, I shot my shot and I applied. And through a series of writing those articles, that kind of snowballed into having enough to be able to apply and get into E3 with a media badge. In the meantime, a colleague of mine in grad school hit me to this group of women called the Frag Dolls, who had just started up a sort of internship program that allowed women to apply and help get their foot in the door in the games industry. So I went for that too. And as it turns out, Ubisoft, which was the developer and publisher that put this crew together, was developing a game called Rocksmith, which allowed you to plug in a real guitar and learn how to play tunes with it. You could see where this is going. It's at this point that I'm going to take a quick aside to drop a couple of tips and tricks that I learned navigating social media and content creation during this time that definitely helped me get to the next step in the process of getting my song in that video game. Step 1, seek community. Making connections is not just about networking and trying to get in the good graces of the folks whose work you admire in the hopes that you could work with them later. It's also making connections with the folks that are also trying to do the same things you are. Find a crew that you can share your work with while it's in progress and get feedback. Folks that are also trying to do the same thing. Don't just make connections with the folks that are where you want to be eventually. Make connections with the folks that are also sharing a lot of the same struggles that you are. Share knowledge, share tips, share job opportunities, and more importantly, just because it's fun, be in your friends' things and have your friends be in your things. Another thing that I learned, and I wish more people knew, don't assume that no one reads what you have to say on social media. That is in the positive sense that if you feel like no one is going to read your positive comment or that fan mail you sent, if you have the energy and the spoons to do that, do share the things you like about things with the folks that make them as well as other people. It helps more than you think. Also, this mostly applies to the game industry here, but I can imagine it extrapolating to other situations. The games industry is one big high school cafeteria, and while we might sit at different tables, every couple of years, we have a tendency to shuffle. So the folks that might be your competitors one year might be your colleagues the next year. The folks that you're yelling about because they didn't do that thing you wanted in time could be the person that you might want to be your boss one day. So chill. Despite what the brand wars suggest, we talk to each other, we share knowledge and resources all the time, and we play each other's stuff. We're rooting for each other for the most part to make things that we're going to want to play later. So we talk. And we see you. And we hope you're okay. The next point about social media stuff is you have to create opportunity and invite it in. And what does that mean? That means putting your contact information in a way where people who will want to work with you will be able to access it and get in touch with you immediately. Put it in your bios. All of them. Update them. Right now. I'll wait. Also, you need to promote the cool things that you do when you do them. I think, personally, past Elisa had a really good version of this, so I'm not going to try to say it again because she did it way better than I ever could. Because you gotta tell people that you're doing cool stuff when you're doing cool stuff, because otherwise they're not going to know that you're doing cool stuff, so that then, when they're thinking about who they want to do cool stuff, they think, oh, that person does cool stuff because I've seen them do cool stuff. So if you do cool stuff, tell people you do cool stuff. You got it? This is a big one that I'm still learning how to do myself, and I am very, very bad at it. That is, have diverse interests that you don't necessarily monetize. It helps in the sense that you have a bigger, wider creative well to draw from because you're going to have all sorts of different experiences that you can tap into. Also, and this is the kind of practical business advice part, it also means that on your social media feed, you're not just a robot shilling stuff all the time. You are a complex, cool human being full of all sorts of different emotions, different likes, and who knows, maybe the person that wants to hire you for this one thing now can say, but they're also interested in this other thing. Maybe I can tap them for that too. And that leads me to step 4. Follow through and commit to the joke. Because I was also a musician in addition to loving video games and also music being a significant portion of my graduate research, I basically let them know that, hey, maybe it would be a good idea to let the musician who knows how to change a guitar string show off the music game. And they bought it. When I found out that they were working on a sequel to Rocksmith, by then I knew that some of the developers would sometimes get their band songs into the game as songs that you could unlock and learn yourself. By that point, I figured I'd done enough work with them showing off the game at live events and previewing DLC on live streams, as well as connecting with them for interviews for my research, that I figured it was a no-brainer that maybe my band could end up as one of the unlockable songs on the game. And they bought it. The point being, by the time I made that joke, they had all of the information about me and all of the tools they needed to turn their, oh, maybe, into a, well, maybe. And that's exactly what happened. Now you can learn how to play this one thing that I wrote when I was really angry one time in a game. You can learn how to play Crimson's Don't Stop in Rocksmith 2014 on guitar or bass. And it's still weird. This is Crimson's Don't Stop in Rocksmith. And now we're tuning. It's a hip.
Technically that works. It's going to go to the 4, but you took it in first inversion. I'm down for it.
Oh, Yep.
It's that awesome guitar bass sound.
So crunchy.
It's very crunchy. I like how Rocksmith, it's not just a bass. Like the filter they put on it made it sound synthy, which is accurate. That's really cool.
Still gotta learn this part.
That's the last part that we wrote on this song.
Wait, really?
Yeah, the
boo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. Oh,
titular
yeah.
riff.
That's right. Yeah, we wrote that last, and then that ended up like all over the tune.
So this solo in the studio was actually one take. It wasn't the first take. But I did it all in one take.
Yeah, you did.
And I've failed ever since then.
Here we go. Aw, honey. Please don't change.
Not bad.
Yeah. Let's do it again. That's just fun. Almost. I almost got it that time. Yay!
We did it.
Hey! Our song's in a video game. How'd we do?
I did so much worse. 88. That's more than a little embarrassing, but I'll take it.
Well, that's what the game is for. We'll get better. We just
I'll
gotta keep
practice.
playing.
I'll keep practicing my own solo till I can play my own solo.
Guitarists, they're just like us.
Now we're going to open it up for questions.
Thanks, other Elisa. You look great. So I sourced some questions from my community over at Discord and Instagram, and we are going to answer some of those now since Cody asks, howdy. With the lack of natural situations to flex your voice being reduced by recent events and staying indoors, how do you maintain your voice so well for singing and for acting? So, yes, it's been hard lately. I miss gigs a lot. But the word flex you use there is actually pretty appropriate because I feel like my voice is a muscle that I flex, and if I don't use it, I feel like I lose it. I find opportunities where I can to exercise and warm up my voice where possible. I still sing in the shower and I still write music. I also have weekly shows on Twitch where I sing. It's definitely not the same singing sitting down in your living room versus being on a stage with a full band, but it's something. What's interesting is the other thing that I've found, especially now, is that because when you're using your voice, your body is your instrument in a very specific and particular way. Listen to your body and give it the rest it needs when it needs it. So a lot of times, yes, it's about finding opportunities to use my voice so I don't lose it, but also it's knowing when to not use your voice and give it the rest and relaxation that it needs so that it can do its work later. So it's staying hydrated. It's making sure that the indoor environment in here isn't too dry and totally drying me out and making me feel gross. Throat coat tea is amazing and I absolutely love it. I personally brew maybe about a couple of bags to a mug this size, like 2 or 3 bags, depending on how froggy I'm particularly feeling. But generally, warm classics like tea, lemon, honey. Personally, I prefer if the honey comes in a bear-shaped squeezy bottle. I feel like it makes me feel better. So if that works for you. Summer asks, what was the highlight or the favorite thing you've done in your career? Well, since I have time, I'm going to cheat and I'm going to name a few. Obviously, playing Tyrene Calypso in Borderlands 3 is like top 3 for sure, because it is a franchise that I have loved for a decade, basically, and it was the game that my husband and I could play together because I was super into RPGs and he was super into first-person shooters, and it was a game that we could play together on the couch, and that was just a really cool experience on top of the art style, the story, the characters, and then finally working at Gearbox and being in the same building as these amazing people that brought this franchise to life. And then I get to actually be in the thing. That's kind of huge. The first time I ever saw someone else play Don't Stop in Rocksmith, and there was an actual YouTube video playthrough of someone playing our song in Rocksmith 2014, and that was just kind of wild because it was like, wow, someone unlocked the song and then they played the song and then they somehow saw it fit to record their playthrough and upload it on YouTube, and I thought, that's pretty dope. Also, at this year's MAGFest, I got to be on a panel with Ellen McLean, and I got to sing with her, and she told me I had a nice voice, and I ascended directly into the sun. Also, generally, I like to think that the coolest moment of my career still hasn't happened yet. Ross asks, as a FilmJoy celebrity and streamer, barely a streamer, what have you found to be the best way to remain mentally centered when surrounded by parasocial relationships, followers, and constant feedback about your existence online? All around me are familiar faces. It's a work in progress, and some days, most days, I fail miserably. It can be difficult to navigate and find a place in this world when you're fighting for social justice and you're trying to be a teacher and an educator for folks, and you're also trying to create content in a way that makes people happy, and a lot of it literally has to do with finding joy in your favorite things in a world where it increasingly gets way more difficult to do that. Therapy helps. And some days it's okay, and some days it's really not. And those are days where I have to let myself, and it's hard to let myself, but I have to let myself just turn off and walk away from the computer and zone out and play some video games and bake an entire loaf of bread and eat that entire loaf of bread and take a nap. And then take another nap. Question from Marianne. What was a challenging part of your PhD program or unexpected finding in your research? Any advice for someone defending their own thesis soon? Thanks. Well, Marianne, first, good luck and congratulations in advance, depending on when it is that you're actually watching this and whether you've defended by then. Second, yes. I didn't touch a lot on what I actually found in my dissertation in that previous section of the show, so I'll go into it just a little bit here. You can actually read the whole thing online. Basically, the question that I was trying to answer through my research is, what happens when you take a music industry that has a lot of gendered baggage, where women musicians and instrumentalists especially have to prove themselves twice as hard to be taken just as seriously as their male counterparts, and you marry that with the video game industry, which has its own gendered baggage. What happens when you try to make a music video game? What comes with it? So I found a lot of what I expected, which is, in terms of the set lists of songs available for you to play, women weren't necessarily as represented as men. And also, when women were represented, they were more likely to be represented as vocalists rather than instrumentalists. Clothing options for women were often described in their texts as being more about attractiveness versus virtuosity and power. But the unexpected stuff I found was in actually talking to the developers and finding out that there are folks on the inside that are actively working to shape and reshape the narrative of who gets to be in a rock band and who gets to be a rocksmith. And these involve things not just like writing text descriptions for clothing, but it also involves how the game looks and how the game is marketed. Also, find what works for you. One thing that I did not realize was how much moving from a classroom, classmate, cohort, scheduled environment to working by myself at home would fundamentally shift how it was that I worked. So I had to figure out the best environment that worked for me, especially when writing things like exams or the actual dissertation itself. I found that I really like and missed that buzz of creative energy and human voices and activity and hustle and bustle. So I wrote the bulk of my qualifying exams on a Sunday afternoon during the fantasy football playoffs at a bar at a Buffalo Wild Wings. Find what works for you. Also, in case you haven't defended your thesis yet, one thing that really helped is that none of these people have studied the thing that you have as much, to the degree, and in the specific way that you have. Therefore, you are the expert, and you are teaching them about this cool thing you found out about the thing that it is that you're researching. All right, question from Instagram. What is your favorite cheese to put on eggs? Well, usually I would have gone for like a cheddar jack blend, but lately I am really into herb and chive goat cheese, either just crumbled straight up on scrambled eggs or even in a scrambled egg and sausage and cheese sandwich. If you could pick any new musical instrument to learn, which one would it be? I wish I could be more interesting about this, but really I would actually like to learn how to play guitar just so I could accompany myself and be able to write my own songs more easily. Who are your musical inspirations? My musical inspirations are many and varied, but here are a few. Poison, Queen, Metallica, Weird Al Yankovic, No Doubt, Selena, and Crucial Taunt. That is the band that Tia Carrere was in Wayne's World. Question from Retsev. Got any good puns? I think the MAGWest crew's been through enough. We don't need to punish them any further. And on that note, that is going to do it for our show. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I hope that you found something in all of this to take with you. And if anything else, it was a nice way to kill a few minutes. Please enjoy the rest of your con. Keep your phones charged, stay hydrated, wear comfortable shoes, and as always, in everything you do, always be sure to rock on.